Hello, it's Lord Slaw here, and welcome to another video. And today we're doing an analysis, which is quite new for my channel. I haven't done one of these before, but I've been trying a lot of new things lately, and I thought this would be pretty interesting to do, to read in between the lines of Doctor Who and see what we can come up with. You know, in certain episodes, in certain areas of the show, I thought it'd be pretty fun. You may already know what I tell you, because when there is some context, it's not necessarily that well hidden, but maybe you'll learn something new, and it's fun to go and look into it anyway and see what we can find. So without further ado, let's analyse arguably one of the best Doctor Who episodes of all time, the Caves of Androzani. So first off, we've got to talk about the Fifth Doctor's character arc. The Fifth Doctor of his era changed in a way almost unheard of for any Doctor other than William Hartnell. There are some other Doctors that do change over the course of their era, like Capaldi. However, I feel that Davison and Hartnell stay in character with their change, whereas Capaldi, between 8 and 9, they may as well be different Doctors. The change is so drastic, and I wouldn't say unprovoked, but it doesn't really seem to be the same character in between those seasons. But that's irrelevant anyway. We're talking about the Fifth Doctor's arc. So he starts off with this, quite happy, quite content man. He's always smiling and stuff and being nice and kind. And that's kind of the central focal point of this Doctor. He's very kind. Because most Doctors, even though they always want to do the right thing, they're always bastards to everybody, always trying to confuse them, always playing tricks on them and stuff and talking in ways they can't understand and laughing at them because of it. I love that, but the Fifth Doctor isn't like that. He's a completely different take on the Doctor in the way that he is just kind. However, even though he stays kind right to the end, he does get a lot more somber. He doesn't stay the nice, happy man. And this is due to things that happen to him. Just for example, you've got Adric's death and Earthshock in The Five Doctors when Barusa, who used to be his mentor and, he was clearly friends with him in the Invasion of Time, turns on him, turns evil, and, ends up becoming immortal in the Death Zone. He has to kill the Silurians and the Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep, which, while that is an abysmal episode, the ending is... it's a pretty gutting ending. It's really well done, and it's something that Pertwee's Doctor tried so hard to avoid when he encountered the Silurians and the Sea Devils, and the fact that the Fifth Doctor has to do it here is just... You can see how it affected him quite a lot, because at this point in season 21, he's really starting to get a bit, grumpy and... Well, I wouldn't necessarily say grumpy, just, again, somber, I think is the right word for it. Also, Tegan running away in Resurrection of the Daleks, which in itself, Resurrection was another turning point. I mean, that was such a brutal, violent episode with the highest kill count of any Doctor Who story. I mean, it was pretty clear that, Davison's Doctor was struggling to hold things together. And that's all another kind of focal point of his Doctor. He didn't always win, which I think is something that all Doctors should have, because the Doctor shouldn't be invincible, but Davison didn't always win more than any other Doctor. I like that, but as well, it's also showed that his Doctor was weak in the way that he was kind. To continue on, you've also got in Planet of Fire, where Chameleon sacrifices himself. I know that, we don't care about Chameleon, but let's just say the Doctor did for the sake of this analysis. And then you get the Caves of Androzani, which we're going to talk about, which links into this arc very well. In his final episode, to really juxtapose the Fifth Doctor's kind and honest personality, you have a world full of mean, two-faced liars in the Caves of Androzani. I mean, seriously, none of these people are nice. And they've all got a chip on their shoulder, and they're fighting this really pointless, brutal, bitter war, and it's all because of one man and his greed, and that being Morgus, who's obviously the worst of the lot. Although here's the thing, the most honest person in the entire story is actually the person who's, being portrayed as the enemy, at least by, the people in the story that aren't the Doctor and Perry. And I suppose in a way he's kind of shown as the main villain, even though arguably Morgus is much more of a villain than Jack. Jack's more just a twisted, mad victim. And yeah, I think that's quite interesting. He's the only one which isn't lying, isn't trying to screw people over for his own greed. He just wants revenge, because Morgus has taken lots of things away from him, as well as trying to kill him, as Morgus has done to many other people. So in a way, Jack's almost the hero of the story, because Morgus is just an absolute arsehole. But everybody else in the story isn't too much better either. You've got Stotzy, which, treats his fellow comrades badly, and he's always lying. Like when he says to Morgus, he says that he managed to haggle Jack up to 8 kilos for the next shipment, even though Jack offered that anyway. As I said, they're all lying to try and get a boost up. And also, even General Chilak, who initially seems quite honest, he sends a man to his death because he's worried he'll reveal that he shot 2 androids in a firing squad, which, obviously would disgrace him and mean he loses his position as general. So it's pretty clear that everybody here is an absolute arsehole, and that really juxtaposes Davison's personality and kind of is why he dies here. Because what this episode really shows is that in this universe, there's no room for a nice man. All of these people constantly trying to screw each other over, and the Doctor's just getting caught in the crossfire. He's not trying to stop anybody or, start some grand revolution to make things better for the people. No, he's just trying to get out of there with his life and save Peri's life. And it's really difficult because nobody is sympathising with him, nobody wants to help him, nobody at all. Even somebody like Salatine, who initially you think, oh, he's a pretty sympathetic character, but no, he has absolutely no interest. And again, it's Jack is the only one which feels any kind of inclination to try and help them as he helps the Doctor go and get the bat's milk. Admittedly, that's just because he's got this weird thing about Peri, but still, again, it shows that the person who's being portrayed as the enemy here may not be the villain. And that's something that's quite clever with the Caves of Androzani. But the point is, there's not enough room for a nice man. That's what the Fifth Doctor's era shows, because all this time he fails to do anything. Here he can't even save the life of himself. And that just shows that a nice and honest man, there's no room for him in a universe like this. And hence why, when he does regenerate, he turns into the absolute bastard that is Colin Baker. Don't get me wrong, I love Colin Baker's Doctor, but he is a bastard. I like bastard Doctors, they're fun, but you can see why that happened, because it needed to happen, because you need to have a stronger stance than Davison had to be able to travel in the universe. That's just how it is, because it's not a very nice place, and Davison's era eloquently shows that to everybody. There's one more thing to talk about before I end the video, and it isn't to do with Davison's character arc over the course of his era. Instead, it's how everybody in this story gets what they want, even though they die. So, for example, you've got Jack, who gets to kill Morgus, even though he dies. Stotzi, who gets to kill Jack, even though he dies. Chilak, who gets to defeat Jack, even though he dies. Salatine, who escapes and gets to lead the charge against Jack, even though he dies. And the Doctor gets to save Peri, even though he dies. The only person who doesn't get what they want here is Morgus, who loses his fortune and fame and credibility, and then gets killed by Jack, which is probably the worst thing that could have happened to him from his point of view. Both disgraced and then killed by, a terrorist, essentially. And yeah, it's a pretty dark world, and I think that helps, emphasize the point that the universe isn't a nice place, and if everybody gets their way, there's only going to be bloodshed and death. And it really just shows how bitter and pointless the war is, and almost serves as a warning against corporate power, because, as we know, Morgus has his power through being a really influential, wealthy man who owns a corporation. I know it's, fiction, but a lot of Doctor Who does this. A lot of Doctor Who warns against corporate power, and it is something that we should all have anxiety about, because corporate power is very dangerous, and they have the potential to become more powerful than the government, and unless they go and check, they will, and you can expect, if one corporation gets powerful enough, a Morgus-like figure to exist in real life. That is it for this video. I think it's pretty clear that Robert Holmes put a lot of effort into this script, and it really paid off to not only make a really good Doctor Who story, but one of the most fitting finales for any Doctor, especially in the way that it linked into his character arc and into his era to make a truly outstanding episode, which is not only the best of Davison's era, well, at least in my opinion, but is one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time. And even though I prefer the War Games, this is definitely a better Regeneration story. The best Regeneration story. Because of this, it was pretty fun to analyse, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe if you didn't know this stuff already, you've learned something today. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did, and I hope you enjoyed the video anyway. If you did, or if you did not, tell me why in the comments, because I know I'm experimenting with a lot of different types of videos lately, and I want to know what you think, whether you like it, and which ones I should continue and which ones I should not do again. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you back next time in another video.